You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Well, okay. Hello. Welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect and discuss key films in the horror movie genre. And as listeners might be aware right now, we are at the end of our John Carpenter Early Years podcast discussions. And what finer film to end on than The Thing? In order to discuss these kind of films and dissect them as we like to, and get into the bloods and guts of them, we need a team of horror aficionados to form that team. There's yours truly, Paul Farrell, and in this podcast, I'm joined by none other than Anthony Yee, the Big Cheese.
G'day, hello.
Hello, Anthony. How are you going?
Good. You got Mr. Mumble over here.
Mr. Mumble.
Mr. Mumble.
Yeah, cool. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard,
you.
Mr. Mumble. Dr. Mumbles. So usually I would lead these podcast discussions because you are our resident sci-fi guru. And technically the thing falls into this category. It kind of somewhere in between that sci-fi horror genre thing. And
yeah.
And it's one that you particularly love and adore. So
Yes.
yeah, so I'm gonna let you lead the reins, man. This is your baby.
I feel, first before we start, I feel that we've come full circle because this film is seminal for, I think you and I bonded over this film all those many years ago or something like this.
We did.
And when you first said, I'm going to do a podcast series way back in the day, I think the first film we both came up was like, you got to do the thing, because we love the thing so much. So we're finally here. The end of
we
a
are,
long journey.
man. It took a long time.
Not the end,
And-
like, you know.
And I blame Wes Craven for that, because
Yeah, because I'll just go through Wes Craven's entire canon.
because he died.
3 years later.
No, because he died. And so it was always it was because of our bond over John Carpenter. It was always going to be him that we were going to kick this thing off with. And then Wes Craven passed away, and I was like, I've got to change tack. We need to look at his stuff first.
Oh, there you go.
So that's why it's taken so long to get to this stage.
Finally getting here.
Yeah,
I've got to know that. Anyway, so The Thing.
the thing.
You realise every gag I'm going to go is like, so anyway, The Thing.
What about the thing?
The Thing. The Thing. You know The Thing?
Yeah, I'm aware of the thing.
Yeah. Oh, The Thing.
It's when you
okay.
start waving the thing around in front of my face that it gets a bit worrying.
Yeah, the film about The Thing. Oh my God, we're riffing.
Oh dear.
So let's do the question we always ask each other first before we kick off.
Yeah.
When were you aware of The Thing?
Right, so it came out, what was it? I'm going to get this completely wrong.
82.
I was going to say 1982. So I was only 3 years old. So so for me, I was, sorry, man. So for me, it was a film that was already it was a bit like, Alien as well. It was already immersed in film legend. As I was growing up, not that I was fully aware of it until I got that a little bit older, though. It's one of those ones where I'm trying to think when I first saw it too, and I'm so crap. I never remember when I first watched these movies. So many people kind of go, "Oh, I remember where I was. I was doing this. I was there." And I just don't. I hit a blank wall with that kind of stuff, and I think it's because I went through. What year did Predator come out? That was 87. Yeah. So that would be the year I watched The Thing, because that's when it's all that kind of stuff that was coming out, and I would have been aware of those kind of films and RoboCop and stuff. And I don't think this is one of those ones that I would have watched with my cousins, so I think I must have stumbled across this one on my own.
Okay.
So I reckon
Your cousins formed a big part of your early viewing experience, yes?
Yeah, like Lethal Weapon, RoboCop, kind of any kind of action stuff. If Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it, we would have watched it. So all those kind of things kind of played a key part of my discovery of those kind of movies. And as you know, I was a big fan of Hammer Horror too. So those were the kind of things I was watching late at night. I want to say this could have been one of those movies that was on the TV, and I was up late one night watching it, and it really stuck to my core ever since.
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomena. I mean, you know me, I'm going to get sidetracked an awful lot, but why certain films become classics, and others age, and they come out the same year, and they have a lot of the similar elements, but just some don't and some do. And this one stays. I mean, objectively, you look back at it, and as a millennial, you think, "My God, can something happen?" Because it's so slow.
Yeah.
But breeze, it so works, and I think we're biased because obviously we were kids when we saw this, but I think it just does. It really does. It's got so much space. It misses things in terms of narrative, in terms of you should cover this off this bit, but it doesn't. It still fucking works. Really amazing film. For me, here's the thing. A lot of my stuff. Aliens was a big seminal film which we talked about in another podcast. Go check on the link.
Go have it.
That was influenced by my cousin. The Thing was influenced by my dad. Now,
okay.
Bit of a background story. We were the first kids in our street to have a Betamax VHS recorder. VCR recorder. So Betamax VHS, a Betamax VCR recorder. We were the first one to record and playback. First kids would come over to our place to watch movies or you'd play whatever. My dad went through a phase where he'd record the late night movie and watch it. He recorded. I remember once he literally recorded the Little Nelly sequence in You Only Live Twice. Yeah, because my dad thought it was an amazing piece of cinema. Because right? So he's an engineer, and there's a tiny little helicopter shoots the shit out of 4 big helicopters. And back in 50 whatever. And as an engineer, he loved that scene. So he literally recorded it, showing me and my brother this amazing scene. He loved it. He just wanted to share that with us.
Yeah.
And the other one is he recorded The Thing, which is a horror film, which is not my dad at all.
Right, yes.
Why are you recording a horror film, Dad? And he said, because the first film he ever saw as a kid was Holt Who Goes There. Or The Thing from Another World, which was based on the short story. Yeah, Holt Who Goes There. And that, because my dad used to go off and pay sixpence, I don't know how much it was.
Yeah.
So, and the Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds, and Thing from Another World. That was his childhood, and he wanted to see this remake that he'd heard so much about. And he recorded it. I think he saw it once, he went, nah. And it became one of those things where you come home from work and you're supposed to do, come home from school, supposed to do schoolwork. Instead, you go through one of the 20 tapes that you have, Betamax tapes, pick one and play it. And that one never got wiped over for some reason. And I don't know why, because I'm not a horror fan back then, not a horror fan either. I'm still a teenager, a preteen. And I grabbed that one, and it just sucked me in. The interesting thing is that my dad, because pause, my God, amazing function. You pause to delete the ad breaks, right? And then you unpause. And this is a clunky old Betamax machine. The one scene where they go into the Norwegian camp, I'm getting ahead of myself. The one scene where they go to the Norwegian camp, and they find the guy who's got his throat cut.
Yes.
The tape damaged at that particular point. Literally, as you cut to the guy with the throat cut, it's damaged, so it's got snow.
Okay.
And it cut away, the snow stopped. So I never saw this guy with his throat cut, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is this shot? What are they looking at? Why are they freaking out about this guy? For years, I never saw that shot until I got it on DVD. I got it on DVD years later. But because of all that mystery was hidden, I was sucked right in again. Like, I wanted to know more about it. Loved it. Loved it.
Man.
So that was my first viewing experience of The Thing, and it connected with my dad. But we should probably start talking about the film, otherwise we're going to be here forever.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's okay.
So, the film starts. Here's the thing. I mean, here's the thing. Whenever you think about The Thing, the theme song, if I say The Thing, do the soundtrack from The Thing, what do? You do the dum dum.
Dum dum. Yeah.
Dum dum. But you actually go to the first bit of music in The Thing. It's actually this chord. This music goes.
Yes.
It's mournful. If you can hear that.
Yeah, I can.
This mournful. That's it. Just chords.
Yeah.
Think of the first shot of The Thing. You think helicopter chasing a dog. It's not. It's actually a UFO flying through the air. That's the thing I always keep forgetting. The first shot you see is this UFO flying out of the sky, crashing to Earth in the year 100,000 BC or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And what a start! And then you have this amazing opening title sequence where the thing burns into celluloid.
Yeah, which it took heavily from the thing from Another World.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go to the DVD extras on the 50th anniversary or whatever, they did 2 takes, and you can see the first take if you want to go. If you're that sad, which I was, of how they did that. So anyway, cut to 1982, which in many respects it still feels like it's 1982 to me.
Yeah.
We're in Antarctica. There's a helicopter chasing a Alaskan Malamute, not a husky, but a Malamute.
Right, I didn't know that.
After shooting at it and throwing bombs at it, which you think, well, this is like, the Antarctic is really stuck for sport. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's it.
So somehow this dog has been running for quite a while and has somehow managed to stay ahead of a helicopter. So anyway, and I fly in and we discover a research base full of Americans, 10 Americans, all male.
All male.
10, all male. And the lead is, you soon see, is Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Playing R.G. McCready. And he's in a shed all by himself. And he's like done up like a wolfman. He's got like a beard, long hair. And he's playing this cutting edge computer chess game.
Tops, man.
I fucking remember when those things first came out. My dad had one of those. And it was like,
yeah, right.
It was an actual chess board, an electronic chess board, and it would type up the letters where it wants you to put the opposition pieces.
Yes.
My dad spent like a year trying to beat that thing. And, and having a computer chess game on your computer was super cutting edge.
Just pour whiskey on it and you're done, man.
That's what he does. He loses, calls it a tuning bitch, and he pours whiskey in it. The computer is voiced by Adrian Barbeau, by the way.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Only female presence in the film. So he comes out to hear there's a bit of commotion outside, which is this helicopter this dog has run into their camp, and this helicopter's shooting at it, landing, and one of the guys, both the pilot and the shooter come out, and the shooter pulls a grenade, and he hasn't gone to grenade school throwing 101. He throws the grenade, keeps the pin. He throws the grenade, it goes backwards, and he tells the pilot to go get the grenade, and the pilot does, just in time to blow up. So the pilot is dead, the helicopter blows up. The Norwegian shooter's running after the dog. The dog runs into the arms of the Americans, and the Norwegian guy yells something in Norwegian, which is never translated. It's not subtitled. But in the DVD, it is subtitled if you go to the Norwegian subtitles.
And what does he say?
He says, "That's not a dog. That's not a dog. Oh my God, you don't know what you're doing. That's not a dog."
Okay.
Or was that effect? Then he starts shooting at the dog, missing, and then scaring the hell out of everybody.
Yeah.
And he shoots Bennings in the leg.
Yes.
And the dog runs away. This guy is just a Terminator on a mission. He doesn't give a shit that he's scared the Americans. He's walking up. He's about to take a shot. And then the leader of the camp, Gary, has got a gun, smashes a hole through the window, shoots the guy through the eye with one shot. Guys,
I know. God damn it. I remember that.
The line is, first goddamn weekend winner. So the assumption being they've gone batshit crazy, which apparently is a thing in the end.
Yeah.
So what was your impression of this opener, the way they opened the film? What do you think?
Firstly, what a crack shot.
Yeah, you had a fucking rifle. And, what the hell?
I was like, what the hell? And but he never really, we never really see that again, though, do we? Like how much of a crack shot he is, like considering.
No,
anyway,
he missed it a lot because he was flying over it. And
yeah.
Again, if you look at the math very closely, you can see where you know where the dogs run from, and they have a hell of. I could have literally circled over it very low and shot it at any time.
Yeah.
Anyway, good shot.
But like it's such to me it's such an iconic opening, that moment, and I guess like again we're jumping the gun, but when the prequel was made, and that all kind of tied up to that, there was that moment of yes.
It does.
when it happens, because it's such a pivotal moment of the movie, and the fact that that they are kind of foreigners, like you said, Norwegian, people that are trying to say to them and warn them, but they don't understand. So the communication, so right from the get-go, communication and lack thereof is a key theme that runs throughout this movie.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
And it does. No one really kind of trust is the other one, obviously, and that's what the thing kind of takes advantage of. But yeah, it was such a great opening, and no one wants to see a dog get shot unless you're a bit. So you're rooting for the dog.
It's a meme. It's a meme. It's like people in movies see guys get decapitated. People get eviscerated. As soon as you fucking shoot the dog, you fucking sicko.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, so already you're rooting for the dog. You're like, get the fuck off the dog.
Good point. Yes.
And because of that, you're inadvertently on the side of the thing.
Good point.
So it's a really, really cool opening. And McCready, look, he's a great character, huh? Kurt Russell really kind of. I mean, we see more of him as it opens up, and it seems like the movies he stars in for Carpenter are so kind of iconic in their own way. Obviously we've already talked about Snake Plissken, and this is the next one that he would be with McCready, and then you've got Jack. Is it Jack Burton from?
From
Big Trouble in Little China is just around the corner. So, they're all three of those are different in their own way, but they all kind of have their own grit that they bring to the role. Or that Kurt Russell brings to it.
Actor in the sense that you don't realize until afterwards that the Pliskens of the world and the McCreadys of the world are not him. He's closer to Burton. And he's so fucking convincing as McCready and Plisken. As a kid, you're like, don't fuck with this guy.
And that's the thing. With McCready, he's the lone wolf, which is ironic, or is there symbolism in the fact that the first time we see the thing is that it's a lone wolf, albeit as you said, not a husky, but whatever the other dog thing you said. And the first time we see McCready is that he's holed up on his own. He's a loner. He's used to being on his own and working on his own rules, and because of that. That's his survival instinct is greater because he's able to kind of combat this thing head on. It's an awesome opening. I mean, there's more to come.
There's more to come. So great. Okay, so from there on, they obviously take the body of the guy inside. He's the Norwegian guy is dead, but he seems to be fine. They figured they're from the Norwegian base, so obviously something's gone terribly wrong. So they got to go check it out. In the meantime, they've got a spare dog, and Clark, who is the dog wrangler, ends up taking ownership of the dog. So they effectively then the doctor, whose name is Harry was the one who shot him. He was the doctor. Blair? No, Blair. It's Copper. Dr. Copper.
Dr. Copper. That's it.
Copper, who I always knew as the guy from LA Law.
Yeah.
Because he's the one. He ended up being married to a girl in LA. The woman in LA Law was his wife, and she was his wife in real life. And she was way hotter than him. That was the other thing I always remember. But yeah, he's looking really cool. Like LA Law, he's a lawyer, right? But in this one, he's got an earring. So how is that? Yeah. And he wants to go check out what happened to the Norwegian.
I want to kind of mention that Clark is played by Richard Masur as well at this stage, who we've spoken about in It. Yes, genius.
And apparently, he actually, when he read the script, he was supposed to be up for another part, and he said, "Can I play Clark?" And he just he said to Carpenter, "I just feel more of a connection to him. Can I play that guy?" And Carpenter was like, "He's kind of a." They all actually have parts to play. And that's the beauty of this. It's a trilogy.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Oh, okay, that seems to be a bit of a step back." He goes, "No, I want to give him a go." And so, that's how he got the role. He actually was attracted to the.
That's interesting. So, do you know who was meant to be playing?
I think it was Charlton's character.
Okay.
He's being more aggressive, and in your face.
Yeah.
And he liked the ambiguity of Clark, which was because Clark is supposed to be a bit is he or isn't he?
Yes.
So okay. So basically, Carpenter says, "I want to go to see Norwegians." McCready, he wants McCready to fly. And McCready's not a big fan of it because winter's coming in.
Yeah.
Then Carpenter says, screw it, Doc, I'll fly her. Which made me think, he must be the other pilot because I must have two.
Yes.
He's the mechanic. He's not the actual secondary pilot.
No.
There's really lovely. There's a case, but Carpenter says, forget it, being your bait because he was smoking marijuana at the time. And he turns around and goes, hey, well, thanks for thinking about it, though. And the way he said it was just really, really funny.
Yeah.
And he's gone on to this day and age, play like more like lawyer types and doctor types, and but back then he was like a wasted hippie. So McCready and Carpenter fly up to the Norwegian base, and the Norwegian base is nuked. The place is on fire. It's smoldering remains. Some shit has gone down. They kick down the door. They find an axe halfway through, buried in a door, which when they open it up, it leads into a radio room, and they find a guy with his throat slit, and his wrist slit, and he's done it himself. He's killed himself. Yep. And they're freaked out. Not as freaked out as I would be if I saw that. I'd be like, right, that's it, we're going. Instead, I think Dr. Copper goes, what happened here? And I was like,
yeah. Well, that's like something you see every day. Those Norwegians.
Yeah. Then they find some videotapes and some notes, which the doctor packs up. And McCready keeps on searching in the facility, and he finds a huge empty block of ice.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a stash of porn.
A stash of, Norwegian porn.
Yep. The big block of ice. Yeah.
Yes, it's a chunk of ice with something that was inside it has been excavated. They're like, okay, cool. Not cool, but like, that's weird. And then they go back outside, and then they find a big ash of something that's been burned, smoldering remains of a creature, which can only be described as a two-headed human.
Yes.
And they go, that's fucking weird. So they get a blanket, pick it up, put it in the helicopter, fly it all the way back to the American base.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this? I think this film, this section of the film is beautiful because there's something about going to the destroyed remains of a place of business or place where humans have occupied it and seeing it destroyed, freshly destroyed, and asking what the hell happened and seeing clues as you go along. Aliens had that brilliantly when they land on the base and they see it just torn to pieces. I think there's something inherently eerie about it. I think there's something inherently you want to keep going there because there's questions that need to be answered. And I think he's done it really well here too. I think it's a really cool moment. And it does, because they don't go back to the base at all, and they only sort of touch on what's happened here a little bit further on. But the fact that they left that open, that makes you ask questions and makes you wonder about it, and like, oh wow, which gets answered in the prequel, which we'll talk about later.
Yes, indeed. Look, what do you think? My first thing is like I recently watched The Thing from Another World, and what I find really quite cool about John Carpenter's take on this is like is that this whole section it's as if like The Thing from Another World happened up to a certain point, and then he's like, right, now I'm going to deviate. So, and the deviation is this group of Americans that come and discover the carnage, essentially. And I think this is one of the there's a lot of really clever, cool choices that Carpenter makes when you compare the original to this, and this being one of them. And you're right, there is that whole kind of sense of what the fuck has just happened here? There's absolute carnage going on. What would drive somebody to the brink of madness or insanity to end their own life? That it's that full on. And then there's hints of what all great kind of horror will always on all great horror. A sign of a good horror is when they indicate what will happen to the group of people that are we are following. And this is what this does by just showing this devastation, and you're just like, and they're no different to the group that we're watching. They've experienced this kind of thing, it's great just to kind of see that, and the fact that you were saying about how they kind of lifted the two-headed kind of entity onto the chopper back with them. You kind of like from a science point of view, wouldn't you just go, yeah, we should probably quarantine this area because that's a little bit fucked up. Like, I don't think we really should touch that. Like, no, bring it back. We'll have a look at it back at ours, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, did you take a photo with your phone? And they're like, phone. So, But the other interesting story this comes up is that this is right on the cusp of AIDS hysteria, and that comes up later for me.
Yeah, okay.
Because when I bring the thing back to the base, also the other thing too, very quickly, when I first took off in the helicopter, it has a lovely cutaway of the dog looking at the helicopter through the window, and then it dissolves to the dog walking around the corridors unsupervised. And he wanders into the room with one of the guys. And you see the silhouette of the guys. He turns to see the dog, and it fades to black. Now, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
The thing is, in the production, the silhouette of that guy was one of the crew members.
Yes.
And chosen because his silhouette was, he had the hair of Palmer, but he had the profile of Norris.
Okay. Interesting.
The two guys who exactly. The two guys. So that's because as a crew member, that's what the cabin knows. Oh, you look kind of half and half. Yes. So anyway, so they bring the thing, the body of what it is back. Blair cuts, and he wears gloves. Now, it was just one of those things as a kid because this is the cusp of age hysteria. The doctor would normally wear gloves for an autopsy, but it just for me, as a kid, that really struck me is the safety you have now, like, because there was a point where anybody who was suspected of being HIV or AIDS, the procedure was you had to treat them with double gloves.
Yes.
As a doctor.
Okay.
And so again, it was just nice when he was wearing gloves, and he cuts it open, and he pulls out all these organs, and he says, what you have here is like a human organs, healthy human liver, lungs, and it looks so mushy and disgusting. I'm like, how can you tell it's healthy? It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if it's just one of my but he ends up touching it with a rubber pencil, like just pointing it. I think it might be for the next autopsy, but he touches it with a pencil, then he brings the rubber pencil to his lips. I don't know, thinking, don't fucking do that.
Yes, it's tasty.
Anyway, so that's really weird. Copper goes through all the notes that he's brought back and the video material, and he finds the VHS material that the Norwegians had discovered something a bit of a distance away.
Okay.
Which they blasted to get at, and it looks like a huge area they've blasted. And now McCree's interested. McCree's like, I want to go and check it out. So before you couldn't drag McCree out there, he's going like, fuck it, I want to see what the hell they found.
Yeah.
He flies out there. He takes Norris with him and one of the other guys, and they find a huge hole in the ground that is filled with an alien spaceship.
Yeah.
And they go, what the fuck? Norris is a geologist and asks him how long it's been there. He's like, well, according to the backscatter effect, which I have no idea what that is, he said it must be 1,000 years. And then on Windows is the third one, I think. And Windows finds a square block of ice that's been cut out of the ice about 50 meters away from the crash site.
Yes.
That's when McCready figures, aha, okay, he's putting it together now. So when he flies back, McCready postulates that it's a UFO that's crashed hundreds of thousands of years ago. The pilot crawls out, dies in the ice.
Yes.
Although I don't know if that part of the world was under ice 100,000 years ago. I guess it is. And they said, and then the Norwegians find it, dig him up, bring him back, wakes up, probably not in the best of moods, quote unquote. And that's what's happened. And they go, all right, okay. And some of them are sort of disbelieving, as Child says, do you believe in this voodoo bullshit? And he says to Blair, do you believe in this voodoo bullshit? And Blair at this point has gone pretty withdrawn and has gone a bit funny. Now,
yes.
He's starting to speculate on a couple of things.
Yes.
So that night,
I really like Blair's character, by the way.
Blair.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's really great.
Yeah.
I know you as an actor, and I know you'd love to play something like him.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
He says a line that's pretty ordinary.
Yeah.
But he says it the best way I've ever heard in a sci-fi film. And the line is, "I'll kill you." But the way he says it is, "I'll kill you." I'll kill you.
I'll kill you.
I'll kill you. But that's not for later. Anyway, so Clark puts the stray Malamute, who's been running around the base for a whole day by itself, unsupervised.
Yeah.
Because that's right. That night they're having a card game, and the Malamute is underneath the poker table, and Bennings gets the shits because he's saying he put this mutt with the other dogs. So Clark takes it, throws it into the kennel. The chef. That's right. Norris is the chef. Norris says, which one of you guys has dropped his dirty laundry in my kitchen? So he's found torn underpants from somebody, but the name's been torn out. So that's telling. Anyway, so Clark puts the dog away. The dog sits with the other dogs. The other dogs go, "G'day, here you go." And then the dog just sits in the middle, and then splits in half and sprouts tentacles and becomes an alien.
That's an awesome.
Which the other dogs really don't like.
Yeah, they're like, "What the fuck, man?
Fuck, bro. Norwegian dogs, fuck.
Spray your shit over here."
And so McCready hears a commotion, hits the alarm. They all come running out the back. They're like, "What is it? I don't know, but it's pretty pissed." And they walk in, and they see this thing is just literally split into some sort of indescribable, horrific alien creature, throwing out tentacles around the other dogs. I remember there's one bit where it just fires a stream of goo at one of the dogs. And you can tell it's a stagehand with a hose hitting this dog with a stream of goo, which is quite forceful. It's like hitting with a hose. And the dog just sits there. He's like going, "What the fuck?" And he's trying to get out of the way of the stream. And you can tell the way it's acting. Like, "Will you stop doing that?" Yeah, no. Anyway, so that's why McCready tells Childs to get the flamethrower. Childs comes in with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
He opens the door just to see this creature literally throw itself as a tentacle straight at Childs' face, and he nukes it at the very last second and sets it on fire.
Yes.
Which they're trained, obviously, to do this in the sense that as soon as he had the flamethrower, two of the other guys had fire extinguishers ready to go. Because I know if their base, which is made of mostly wood, gets on fire, they're fucked.
Yeah.
So as soon as they nuke it, they pull it out. There's a bit, if you recall in the sequence, this bit where this dog is mutating into a thing. It punches a hole in the roof, and a part of it seems to go into the roof for me. And I always thought it got away, part of it got away, but it's never accounted for.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll have to rewatch that bit. I don't remember that happening.
So they kill. So they killed this thing, whatever it is. Ooh. The next day, they get Blair to do an autopsy on it. And
yes.
He cuts it open. I think this is where he actually touched it with his
penis. Oh, yeah.
Penis. He cuts it open and he's almost puking. He's like, "Oh, my God." But then he says, "What you have here is a perfect duplicate of a dog." And again, it's so disgusting and... I was like, how's it perfect? It's just a massive legs and arms. How the fuck is that perfect? But he says that's what it's a replicant. It's a chameleon. It's a replicant. It's not a real dog. He was like theorizing it was absorbing the other dogs. That's when his brain really goes into overgear.
Yeah,
and he starts to lose his shit. And then that's right. And then basically he starts doing work overnight. And he has this computer.
That's right. Yeah.
An 80s computer, and he typed in questions in the 80s computer, how long will it take this to unite the world? And the computer answers back. Which I'm thinking, that's a remarkable...
Siri. It's Siri, man.
Siri. That's Siri, like back in the 80s.
Yeah. I do not understand your question.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the gang are like, well, we gotta move this thing into the storage shed because, quote unquote, this is going to win somebody the Nobel Prize. And so Windows and Bennings move it into the shed. And then Bennings stays behind because he wants to move out some of his stuff. Windows goes, whatever. And then you start to see this thing, which is on a blanket, start to bleed and start to ooze a little bit. And then when Windows comes back, he goes, "Come on, Bennings, we gotta go." Then he sees that Bennings is being absorbed by the thing. Windows loses his shit. Scream, hits the alarm. Everybody comes running. He comes running. He grabs the guy, saying, "It's got Bennings." They come running back. It's gone. And then they run outside, and they find Bennings running out in the snow. But hands are not fully. His hands are, not fully formed. Yeah. And then McCready knows straight away that's not Bennings. It's the thing. And so they look at it, and it starts to scream this unholy wail. And McCready knocks over a petrol canister, covers it in petrol, then uses a flare, nukes him, burns him alive.
Yeah. I love that scene.
Yeah, great scene. But I was always confused. How did he get... If he bursts through Bennings' clothes, and whose clothes is it wearing as it's running out into the snow? I assumed as a kid that it replicated clothes as well. If it can do that, we're fucked, obviously. But obviously, as is later sort of shown in the canon, it can't do that.
No.
But I was like, how did it get clothes? So quickly. Anyway, so...
Saw him lying around. I'll wear those.
Yeah, exactly. They kill it. So Blair at this point has kind of lost his shit. And he's actually tearing up the...
I'll kill you.
I'll kill you. He ends up smashing the radio room with a fire axe. Winter's set in at this point, so communication's up. He's actually smashed up the radio room with a fire axe. They try to get him. He pulls out a revolver, says, "I'll kill you." They eventually knock him out with a table.
Yes.
And this was a really cool shot. They come in with like a fold-up table, and he's got a fire axe, and the fire axe goes right through the table in one shot. So I don't know how they did that as a shot, whether they really did that, because that was fucking dangerous, or they did it with practical effects. But it was a really hell of a shot. Then they jump on top of him, and then they kick the shit out of him, which is always, I don't know why, it gets a laugh. It's always got a laugh to me. I just think it's funny. Pile on top of this really old guy, and just go, "Fuck you!" Anyway, they knock him out, tie him up. And they realize he's destroyed all modes of transportation, the helicopter, and the big truck to get out of there. And he's put a fire axe to all the remaining dogs that are alive.
Yes.
He also said at this point, and before he goes crazy, that's right, he asked Clark how long was the dog running around the base. And Clark said all day. And that's when Blair suspects that Clark's probably the one that's infected, or one of them that's infected. So this has set everybody off. People are getting paranoid now. Blair, the doctor, has figured, look, there's a way we can figure out who's the thing, is that we run a blood test.
Yes.
And so if you expose all our blood to the blood of the thing, that should have a reaction. They go, okay, that makes sense. Let's do that. They lock Blair in a shed outside.
Yeah.
That's right, because I think they can't trust him. He's going to be batshit crazy. Before they lock him, Blair says, go look after Clark, because Clark's fully infected. Copper recommends the blood test. Then, as he's preparing the blood test, somebody yells out and realizes that the blood, all people's blood, which is on supply, has been tampered with and destroyed.
That's right.
Right. And so they can't run the test. And so people go, who had the keys? And the Gary, who's the leader, has the keys. And so people are really fucking tense now because they assume that Gary's done it. So Gary relinquishes command at this point. And Charles, he puts out his gun. Charles goes for the gun, but Clark won't let him go near it because Clark and Charles have a thing where they don't trust each other.
Yeah.
So by default, McCready grabs it and says, "Well, it's me then."
Yeah, yeah.
And so McCready, new leader of the pack. Yay! And then Fuchs, who is Blair's understudy, or shall I see, he's the new scientist of the group.
Yes.
And McCready said, Fuchs, you've got to find out a way to determine who's the thing now. The blood's gone. You've got to figure out another way. And Fuchs is like, he's not really up for it, but he's going to try. He keeps suggesting. The only thing he contributes is he suggests everybody eats out of cans because he figures if a single microbe of this thing gets into your system, you're fucked. Very own meals, eat out of cans, and then Fuchs disappears in the middle of the night.
He does.
And they don't know where he's gone because the lights go out. That's right. McCready goes, any one of us could have got to him. Where is he? So they form a search party. So McCready goes out with Windows and Knowles. They find Fuchs's burnt body. So you never see what happened to Fuchs. You just find his body.
Yeah.
And he's McCready tells Windows to go back in the base. It's starting to get. This is nighttime now. And it's starting to get very heavy with snow. And he tells them, I want to go check out my cabin. And he says, why? Because when I left it, I turned off the lights, meaning he's seeing there's lights on in his cabin.
Yeah.
Windows comes inside, tells everyone what's happened. Then Niles comes running in, and at this stage, the blizzard is really, really bad. So Niles is near freezing. And he says, where's McCready? And says, I cut McCready loose. And he said, why is that? Because when he was in the shed with him, you don't see this, he describes this. You don't see it, which is not interesting. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if in this day and age, you probably would cut to it.
Yeah.
But because it's all descriptions, you have to listen to the story as told if it is in real life, and you have to sit there and judge that person, is he telling the truth?
Yes.
And as you would if it was a real thing. And so Niles says, we were in the shed, he wasn't looking, I saw a piece of clothing jammed up his fireplace, and it's his shirt, and by this stage they've established that it bursts through your clothes when it takes over you, so he suddenly thinks, fuck, McCready's one of these things.
Yes.
So he's obviously to try and get away, to try and hide the evidence. And he runs outside, he cuts McCready's line loose because they need safety lines to get back because it's such a
That's right. Yeah.
And he's left him for dead. Boom. So he described all this. So to me, it's really interesting because paranoia is the big component here. John Carpenter's trying to make you paranoid about everybody.
Yes.
Or make a judgment call, he's telling the truth, he's not. To me, that was such a fantastical story because Niles is such a small guy. And the fact, it's such a Hollywood thing. I waited till he turned his back and I looked up into the fireplace and grabbed a piece of clothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's really unlikely. Why would you do that? That's just... So to me, when I saw it for the first time, I think that's an unlikely story.
Yeah.
So he's the thing. Anyway,
yes. Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, he's convinced all the others. They're freaking out. Palmer, especially, is starting to go, well, if it's him, we got to fucking kill him, right? So he's and straight away, look at why he's so keen to kill him. So straight away, the paranoia is starting to really ratchet up a notch. McCready at this point is trying to break in, so he's come back. He's made his way back in, and he's broken. He's broken the window through a supply closet, and he's gone in that way.
Yeah.
So they figured they go, okay, we've got no choice now. We've got to stop him. Norris at this point still clutches over and doubles over in pain.
Yes.
And he's sweating, and so straight away you're thinking, what's wrong with him? They basically go down to the supply closet to try and kick down the door, and they're threatening to kill McCready, or whoever you are, as they say. Now, McCready at this point, because he's half frozen to death, looks like death. He looks like a zombie. He doesn't look human.
Yeah.
And when they kick down the door, he has a flamethrower and a stick of dynamite. So straight away they freeze in their tracks because he says, well, if you guys come any closer, I'm going to blow the fucking place up to pieces. He says to Niles, in the courtesy that anybody could shove one of my old clothes up in that fireplace as framing me for evidence, or framing me as the thing, which in itself sounds as equally fantastical. So straight away you don't know if he's the thing or not. Things are really tense. Things are about to kick off, and Norris collapses, and that changes everything.
Yes.
So they bring Norris. He's having a heart attack. Blair's like, we got to do something now. So they drag him into a room. They put him on a bench, and Blair says, I need him paddles because his heart stopped. And so McCready says, okay, fine, but he still has his phone, so stick it down. So he's covering everybody. And then Blair's, and they're having huge arguments about all this, while Blair's in the background thumping Norris's chest. He does it once.
It's not Blair. It's Cropper, not. It's Cropper, not Blair.
Copper, yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, Copper. Yeah, Copper. That's right. Copper shocks him once, feels for a pulse, nothing again. Shocks him the second time, and his fists go right through Norris's chest because Norris is the thing. And again, so many iconic moments. But this is, in terms of effects, this is the bomb. Norris's chest cavities become teeth, and by Copper pushing the pallet's chest, his arms are inside the jaw of this creature, which sounds like a bear trap, cutting off his arms, and he collapsed back down. The way they did that shot is they got a man who was an amputee who had no arms, and they made a cast out of Copper's face. The actors cast out of the actor's face and stuck it on this person's face. So if you see for a short second, that's not actor. That's not Copper. It's another guy wearing a copper face mask. Not a face mask made out of copper. Right. Face mask on the actor, and he's waving his arms. But he's waving his arms, which are bloody stumps, which are stumps. They're not. He doesn't have any arms. He doesn't have any hands. So that's how he did that shot.
Yeah, cool.
It's just
Nice.
genius old school filmmaking, and you totally buy it. You don't even think it's not like him. And he falls. Everybody freaks out, loses the shit, realizes McCready's the only one that's armed with a flamethrower, and McCready nukes it. He nukes it with the flamethrower, and it burns fire. And Norris's head screams and stretches and detaches from his body, falls on the ground, sprouts 2 eye stalks and 8 legs, and starts crawling on the ground. Then Palmer's the one who sees it. Interesting that Palmer's the one who sees it and says, "You got to be fucking kidding." And then McCready So that effect was done by I think it was like a ratchet that pushed up his head to separate it from the body, and the actual spider was a little car box on wheels, fur on and legs on, and that's how it moved. That's why it moves like a car, even though the legs are scattering. So it works. At this day and age, I mean, you look at it this day and age and go, "Oh my God, that's very," but it so works. It's so cool. Part 2. McCready is still having everybody hostage in the Gaines room, and McCready has a theory, and he says seeing the head detach itself like that made him think that every single bit of this creature is a sentient thing living individually and as one. So if you destroy the body, a part of it will try to escape. So he figures, okay, what if you draw blood from everybody and then attack the blood with something like a hot needle? It should, in theory, react. Yeah, and it's a really good engineer's way of approaching the problem, because you could see it'd be flawed in terms of a medical way of thinking. But from an engineering point of view, complete sense. So I loved it because it's a plan that doesn't feel quite right, but kind of does, because what else are you going to do? And so he ties everybody up, gets Knowles to draw blood from everybody, and put them in little dishes, petri dishes. And I remember Knowles is the last one to cut himself. And he says, he's done, because Knowles cuts people, draws blood, puts them in a petri dish, and says, "Knowles, do yourself." Was it Knowles or Windows? No, it's Windows. And Windows wipes the scalpel on his jeans and then cuts himself. And again, this is the age of AIDS, right? And I was, why are you doing that? Even if you're a human, you've just infected yourself. If you've been using the same scalpel on everybody, you've just infected yourself. So, and then one by one, McCready literally gets a piece of copper the wire, not the person, and heats it up with the wire, and he jams it into each petri dish. And each time he does, nothing happens, and it's really lame. No. And after like the third one, you're like, this is a stupid idea. It's not going to work. And the others say this too, like it's really fucking dumb. It's not working. He tests Clark. Also, Clark is shot at this point too, because McCready killed Clark at this point. Oh
we missed that bit.
I've skipped over that. Sorry. When he had the flamethrower and the stick of dynamite, they rushed him and he shot Clark in the head. So he ends up doing the needle test on Clark's body and then proves it, and nothing happens. And Child, who at this point is vying for power within the group, because he's the other alpha male, and he says, "Oh, make sure trying to take down McCready down a peg." Then he does it to Child's, and that's right. He does it to Child's, and every person he does, he lets go. So the people who are tied up are Windows, Palmer, Gary, Knowles, and Childs. And so he does Knowles, and he lets him go, and then he does Childs, and Childs is like, "Get me the fuck out of here." And the only two left are Gary and Palmer. And he does. He does. Gary and Palmer, and then he does Palmer, and it's really interesting the way.
Is it Windows? I thought Windows.
And Windows, yeah. Windows, Knowles, Childs, McCready, and the two left in the chair, Palmer and Gary. And the interesting thing he does with the way Carpenter shoots this is that one of the angles you see McCready holding up the petri dish in his hand, and he jabs the needle into the petri dish. The first time, because the other time he does the needles, the petri dish on the table, and he jabs the needles on the table. And after about halfway through, he grabs one, puts it in his hand, and jabs the needle in his hand. That hand's not his hand. That hand's a prop hand. Right. It's loaded with blood. So the first time he does it, nothing happens because Carpenter had to establish that this is a normal shot. And then by the time he gets Palmer's. And Palmer's reaction at this point is really blasé. Palmer's very quiet. And when he does Palmer's, he jabs it, and of course it explodes, and it actually reacts. And so the theory is proven. And so Palmer starts reacting. He starts mutating and becoming the thing. And McCready's flamethrower runs out of fuel at this point, conveniently.
Yes.
He tells Windows to attack it. Windows freaks out, doesn't do anything. Palmer's head splits open. His tentacle comes out, grabs Windows by the neck, jams Windows around the head, and spins him around like a top.
Yeah.
And effectively fucking Windows. His Windows is dead. Finally, McCready realizes the problem with his flamethrower is that the fuel pump is stuffed.
Yeah.
And he ends up hitting the fuel pump, so it works, and he ends up nuking Palmer, who runs out the wall and just literally explodes to the wall, runs out into the snow, and is dying. And then McCready throws a stick of dynamite at it and blows it up.
Yeah.
If you look at the film, that's actually the Russell throwing a real stick of dynamite.
Oh, right.
And the guys, it's like an explosive. It was supposed to be a small charge. You're completely safe. And apparently, it just almost killed him. And you can see, you see my reaction, like it went boom, and you see like physically the force hits him really hard. And he said that reaction's real. I didn't expect it to be that big an explosion.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, and it's one shot. So yeah, it's definitely him. And he's like, yeah, that really. He said that was not a small explosion. Anyway, so he kills. He kills Palmer. The only one left. That's right. The only two left is Childs and Gary. They do Childs, and he's safe. So it's McCready, Knowles, and Childs have flamethrowers on Gary as the last person. They do Gary, and Gary's safe. And Gary ends up with the line saying, "Gentlemen, I realize we've all been through a very stressful time. I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch," which was a very good line.
I love that line. Yeah,
the way he delivered it was just brilliant. So
perfect.
I figured the four of them are all safe, and there's a fifth person, Blair.
Yes.
So they say to Childs, "We're going to administer the test to Blair." This is Knowles, McCready, and Gary. And they say, "Childs, hold the fort. We're going to go to see Blair." They go up to the shed where Blair is kept, open it up. There's no Blair. No. So where's Blair gone? Then they find a hole in the floor. He's dug a massive fuck-off hole. They go down, and they discover what looks like a spaceship of some sort. Blair's built out of the destroyed parts of the chopper and whatever, a miniature sort of flying saucer / hovercraft. I don't know what it is. And again, this is the really cool thing about this film. It's just there. You see a bit of it, and that's all you ever see of it. You know, And you can't ask me how. How did you do it? Oh my god, that's so really cool. But they're freaking out because they realize he's clearly the thing. He's clearly infected. Yeah. So we got to find out. They go back up to the shed to go back to the base. Noel says he sees Childs running out into the blizzard, and they're away. That's right. And they go back to the station's power generator, and they find that it's gone. It's gone, McCready. It's gone. It's been gone, McCready. Figuring that the thing now is outnumbered, and it knows that they know who it is. So what it's going to do is kill the power, so they freeze to death, and it just hibernates.
Yes.
Waits for a rescue team.
Yes.
And then get the civilization, in which case they're fucked. And then McCready said, "Look, we're dead. Did we kill this thing to get the civilization? So in the last ounce of breath, we destroy the base, warm it up, flush it out, kill it, and then we die." Which, it's a heroic moment, and it's a horrific moment because these guys don't owe the world anything.
No.
And the fact that they willingly choose to do this is really cool. I think it's a really cool moment where they just go, and they're not heroes at all, but that's the only option they have because they've seen what it can do. And that's right. That's it. And it is, it's whenever, you hear stories of people doing this in real life, like they know they're going to die and they're going to sacrifice themselves or something. It's just, it's a really full moment. So they go there, that's right, they drive a tractor into the building and start throwing sticks of dynamite everywhere. They're blowing it up, setting it on fire. They then go down to the basement, hoping to find the thing and kill it. And then they're going to, again, wire it with sticks of dynamite. And of course, what do? They split it up. And as I do, Gary turns a corner and Blair finds him and jams his hand right over his mouth. But then he sticks his fingers digs it into his skin underneath his cheek. And it's such a great sort of moment, but no, it's just really great.
No, that's right.
Basically, yeah, Blake kills Gary. Knowles goes off to lay the last bit of charges, turns the corner, and McCready goes, "How you going in there?" No answer. So he's like, "Shit, Knowles is gone too." So he brings up the plunger, ready to detonate it, and the monster attacks. The thing attacks as this huge, giant gestalt monster made up of bits and pieces of all the guys and all the creatures it's accumulated over the years. So it's all stop motion because that's all they had technology-wise.
I love it.
And it's great. And it pulls the plunger into it makes a huge hole in the ground. It's a really cool effect, actually. It's sort of like a mole underneath and just tears towards him, and the bits of the earth just fly up. And it's a practical effect, so it's quite disturbing to see. And then this tentacle comes out, grabs the plunger, because having absorbed Knowles and Gary, it knows what McCready plans to do.
Yes, that's right.
And then it bursts out like this terrible thing from nowhere. It's got legs, it's got a larvae body, like a giant caterpillar, heads of all the guys. And McCready grabs a stick of dynamite, does a somersault for no real reason whatsoever, and jumps, and then throws a stick of dynamite. But before he does, he ends up saying what was the 1980s equivalent of a really witty line, which is, fuck you too. And then he throws it and he blows it up. And he blows it and kills it. So basically it's dead. The humans, it's blown up. McCready walks out into what is the wreckage of that building. He knows it's warm because there's fires, but then the fire will die and there's winter. It's a blizzard. It's fucked. Then he finds Childs.
Yes.
And he says, "Where were you, Charles?" And Charles goes, "I thought I saw Blair, so I went out after him." And they stare at each other, realizing they're the last two, and any one of these things could be the thing. And then McCready goes, "Well, I think if one of us has a surprise for the other can't do anything about it." And Charles goes, "All right." So they sit and they just stare at each other, and they share a drink, which again aids period. If one of these is a thing, and if any little piece of it can affect you, then don't fucking share a bottle.
Yeah.
Which is what they do. And then cue the thing. That's what they say. It's going to get warm. It's warm, but it's going to die down. And then the theme song kicks in. The dum 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 dum, and it ends. What a fucking ending, man! What a great ending.
It's one of the most infamous endings in film history. It's still talked about, and even now, like I think it's in the recent kind of DVD that's Blu-ray, that's coming out or has just come out. There's a bit of a doco, and the camera lighting guy kind of gives the answer away to it about the question.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah. Which is basically about you always know what the thing is because it's the way the eyes are lit or not lit.
They're not. Yeah.
And if you look at the way that final little bit of footage is shot, then Child's eyes aren't lit, whereas McCready's are. So it suggests that Charles is the thing. But what a doom and gloom ending, though. If that is the case, then humanity is still fucked, you know?
Still fucked. Well, apparently, according to the editor, when they were doing this, he actually said to, during the first half of the film, when they were still shooting, he said to Carpenter, you need to shoot a happy ending because it's a studio film. You have to. And apparently, he did shoot one. He shot one when McCready gets picked up. He's in a helicopter, and he's getting a blood test, and the blood test is I was going to say positive, but that's a bad ending. The blood test indicates
he's human.
And that's a happy ending. And apparently it's been shot and it's never been seen by anybody.
Right.
So it hasn't been released yet. So
whose decision was it then? Was it Carpenter's to kind of ultimately go, no, I want to go with that choice?
Carpenter pushed for his choice. He shot it because it was his first studio film. And he thought, okay, I better play. He pushed really hard that's the ending he wanted. And the test audiences are all like, yeah, cool, great. And so, that's how it ended. But I must admit, based on when I was a kid, I saw it. I was like, why the fuck would you go out into the snow by yourself if you thought you saw the thing? Of course he's the fucking thing. Like, to me, it's just obviously. Rational at all.
That's how I took it too. Yeah, what a great kind of what a great ending to a movie. And as I said, it's one that has been talked about for years since as well. So it's.
I remember as a kid being pissed off with it because I really wanted to know, but then as an adult, I appreciated the brilliance of it.
Yeah.
Works. It's akin to the Sundance Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yeah, of course.
It's akin to that. Like it's. No, I love it, and one day when we make our own film, I know you and I intend to pay homage to that.
Yes.
But yeah, cool film. Like it's. Why does it work? Like it's 10 guys. It's an ensemble cast. 10 guys. It's bleak. It's desolate. Why does it work? It's it plays on paranoia and distrust, but it's not the first one to do that.
No.
It has horror effects, groundbreaking for the time. Quaint.
Yeah.
For now, but visceral. Why does it work? That's the horror element, and then you got the sci-fi element too. Like it's a chameleon in the dark, right?
Yeah. Not
the first time that's been done, not the first time since, but why does this work? It just does. I mean, I appreciate it though. It's the interesting thing is like it came out 2 weeks after E.T. and E.T. was crushing the world at that point. And it's interesting if you listen to the documentary behind the scenes stuff about it. Is that Carpenter speculates that, and other filmmakers do that these sort of things go in cycles.
Yeah.
This is loose parallel, but they interviewed Gene Simmons once, and your brand of music with Kiss, right? So you look at Kiss, and what do you think of modern day music that's more grungy and this and that? And he's like, music goes through cycles. It goes between one or two extremes. Music is happy, or it's introspective and serious. And it could be like that. What form it takes, what genre is different. Like disco is happy, pop is happy, Kiss glam rock is happy, big hair rock is happy, Bon Jovi that's happy. Then usually that sticks, and then it goes to like the flower power music of the 60s. Folk music is very deep and introspective. Dylan is deep and introspective. Then you got grunge rock in the 90s. He said it bounces between the two. And filmically, Carpenter says an alien film, they're ready for an alien film, but they wanted a happy one. And so, 79 with Close Encounters, which is partly scary, but mostly about hope. And then E.T. comes along, and it's a positive spin on alien representation. He said they weren't ready for the cycle to be scary again. And that's the same thing. Like, to him, that's a big reason why it didn't.
You were saying how in today's audience would find the effects in it archaic, but for me, like there are two movies where the special effects, which were real practical effects, used to legendary iconic status, that I would say to anyone who was ever wanting to kind of really experience that at its best. There are two movies that jump out. One is The Thing, and the other one is An American Werewolf in London.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And for me, like and I love that stuff. You're talking to somebody that absolutely loves stop animation. Cannot get enough of that as an art form. And it's the same with me with these creature effects. Like the old school effects is what I love. Even the ones that are shit. Like I'm just like, because it feels more real, and that's where there are question marks around what CGI has done. To name and shame a film, Van Helsing was like, to me, was the
that was the first
point where it was like, what
the
yeah. So, like, and I do have like a yearning for that kind of old school kind of creature effects. There's a new, I know it's werewolves again, but there's a guy who's he did an Indiegogo project. His name's Todd Sheets, director, and did his Indiegogo project called Bone Hill Road, which is a werewolf flick, and he was promising that it was going to be real old school kind of practical effects, and it broke so many records of backers because there were people out there so hungry to kind of see that old school technique again on screen.
Right.
Yeah. And interestingly, like just interviewed Linnea Quigley, which was
I've heard that.
yeah. So that was on a podcast. By the time this comes out, would have been a few sessions back. But she's in it as well. So yeah, look, it's it's I think, well, no, I don't know it by now. By the time again this comes out, it's definitely had its premiere in the States. So I'm yet to see how that's kind of come about. But I'm kind of keen to see it. But hopefully by now, as I said, by the time this is released, the podcast, I may have hopefully have seen it, because it's going straight. I think it's going to get straight released to DVD, Blu-ray kind of thing. So,
Okay.
But yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, talk very quickly about the prequel, also called The Thing.
Yes. Yeah, we should. You and I went to see this at the cinema, didn't we? Right, and we brought along both our partners at the time, and who were indifferent to us in our anticipation of seeing this film. I don't know. I think we're in a minority of coming out and actually really liking this film. I've spoken to a lot of people, and they really pan it, and I'm like,
but
why?
I mean, again, we should do this as a separate podcast as to what makes a good sequel. We've talked.
Yes.
We haven't come up with any definitive answers. Because interestingly enough, just to tie it in, because the time we've done this podcast, Blade Runner 2049 has been out for a little while.
Yes.
And The Thing came out at the same time as Blade Runner. And like Blade Runner, was not fully appreciated when it first came out. It developed following afterwards.
Yes.
Now, Blade Runner 2049 has been it's been loved by the critics, panned by the audiences. Nobody's watching it. And that's a whole other podcast as why that's the case. But this one, like you and I felt worthy. It's good. It's not. I don't think for me it doesn't have the craving that you get to see. Like you want to every now and then you're like, oh, I want to see the thing again. It doesn't have that rewatchability. Whereas the Thing prequel, it does. Sometimes I'm like, I want to see this again.
Yeah.
And so it's not as good as the Thing, but it's I think I thought for a bunch of guys who are up against it, they did a good job.
I agree. And it's got Tormund from Game of Thrones in it.
Yeah, it's got the Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah, which we didn't know at the time.
I'd seen him in a couple of things up to that point, because they went through as a phase where they were casting a lot of Nordic actors.
Yes.
In certain things, and then it was like, oh, there's that guy. But again, the interesting thing about me, one of the interesting things I took out of that film was they were so faithful to the fact that it was set in the 80s.
Yeah.
There's a bit where the characters are mouthing off against each other because they're getting paranoid, and one of the characters gets accused. The American guy gets accused, and he says, "What do you think? I'm an asshole?" And in today's day and age, that's not really a big put down.
No,
it kind of was. I felt faithful to the sentiment. And it was just I just like that's the interesting thing of making the prequel. In terms of design, it wasn't an overly 80s feeling film.
No, it wasn't. No,
they didn't have 80s hair. She didn't have 80s fashion. She had a Walkman. That was at the beginning of the film.
That's right.
But, what's the name? The Australian guy.
Joel Edgerton.
Edgerton, his character has a Beretta 92F, and that gun didn't come until 4 years later, or 3 years later. So the gun was an anachronism.
I love the fact that you picked that shit up. It's hilarious. You're such a gun nut, man.
I'm such a gun nut. I'm a gun nut for films. Let's just underline that. I'm a gun nut for films, not so much in real life. But yeah, look, I guess the interesting thing about any prequel is that you know how it's going to end. So for me, how you get there has to be you got to have some sort of twist, ideally, to get there. That changes how I view the beginning shot of the next film completely differently. So from that point of view, this film didn't quite do that. But And the other interesting thing we talked about this, the thing they had up against it was the character. And this is the conundrum that any zombie film has, is that when zombies break out in a zombie film, this film is set in a universe where there's no such thing as zombies.
Yes.
Unless it's a comedy, in which case it is, because the comedy usually refers to the fact that, oh my God, zombies can't be real. Like Shaun of the Dead.
Yes.
So straight away, you've got a bunch of people who are playing catch up with the audience, because as the audience members, you're like, yes, we know that person's bit, they're sick, don't go near them. Oh my God, that's not your mother. Oh my God, what are you doing? Fear the Walking Dead. Like, in its own universe, Fear the Walking Dead, those characters had to go through stuff that they had already figured out, and so therefore you. So there's a bit where their neighbor is sick, and she's growling through the fence, and this girl's walking up, and she's in biting distance, and you're sitting there going, "Why are you being such a fucking idiot?" But her character had no idea, so you played for them to play catch up. So the interesting conundrum with this film is these scientists have to figure out what's going on, something that you as an audience member already knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And you and I, the interesting thing about this girl, Elizabeth Mary Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead,
what her name is? Einfeld, I think find her name is. She figures it out very quickly. And the evidence is presented to her. Like, the evidence is presented to her at a reasonable rate, but every first guess she makes about it, she gets the right guess.
Yeah.
But she has to, because as the audience member, you're kind of going, get on with it. But it's one of those things where you step, because the beauty of how Blair figured it out, he figures it out, and he keeps it to himself, and he does it very slowly. And the way he just suddenly gets introverted makes you worry what's going on.
Yeah.
With her, it's one of those things where, as from a writing point of view, plot point wise, you had to kind of get it out of the way, so you can get onto stuff that's different about what it does.
Yeah.
That film had it against it. That was one of the obstacles that film had in front of it, and I'm not too sure it achieved it. Indeed, if it could, because you and I sit there thinking she figured that out really quick. Like,
yeah.
The other thing too was they were going to be practical effects. They were big on that, and then they panicked due to pressure at the last second to make them CGI or combine CGI practical effects, and it did take you away from it a little bit. Yeah, because I think that level of CGI you have to have a big budget, which they didn't really have. Yeah, and they probably spent most of it on practical effects. So that was the other thing that I thought went against it. The rest of it, I liked the characters, the way they came about, the way they were very faithful to the bits that you wanted answered. For me, the fire axe was a big one, when she threw the fire axe into the wall, and I leaned across saying that's the fire axe. That was really, really clever. And the reason why she told him not to touch it because it's covered in blood of the creature like that.
And more importantly, it's in the next film, so don't touch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The guy with the cutty throat, how he got there. All of it. It's
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a solid film. It's a solid film.
Yeah. And I get it. Look, it's not fantastic. It's nowhere near on par to to its predecessor. But like there's enough kind of clever things in there to kind of go, you are paying respect to your predecessor. That to me, I think it's better than your average prequel. Put it that way.
For sure. So, you can tell they were fans. I'm massive fans. I think.
Oh yeah.
The best filmmaking, the best chance to make a good film is you get somebody who is a filmmaker first and foremost, but they happen to be a fan of the material, preferably a boyhood or girlhood, like a girlhood if it's a girl filmmaker, a childhood fan of the material.
Yes,
because it's something they adore and adhere to, whatever the text is. Yeah, but they know they'll pay. Their first duty is to tell the story via the film format. And best example for that for me is Peter Jackson. Love Lord of the Rings, but he was like, I'm a director first, and therefore if anything in the book gets in the way of telling the story as a film, it's out the book. It's out. And he didn't get really pissed off. But you can clearly tell he loved the universe that Lord of the Rings was, and he embraced it, and he respected it. But like Tom Bombadil, that's out. Faramir, Faramir letting go of the ring. No, he keeps the ring because as a character, it makes sense for him to keep it. He did the right thing, and so that to me. And so these guys have that. They were huge fans of the original film, and I'll try to tell their own story as well. So yeah, look, from that point of view, it totally works. The thing that gets me as an Australian is that the Antarctic is mostly owned by Australia, I think. I'm sure someone's going to pull me up on that. Of all the modern civilizations that have state acclaim there, we are the closest.
Yes.
And New Zealand. It just pissed me off that they don't have they go to, at the end of the film, they go to a Russian base. They could go to an Australian base. Because let's face it, all Hollywood's full of Australian actors anyway.
Yeah, but
the third film should have been set Australian base.
Yeah, but think about the time that it was supposed to be set.
It's post-war, yeah. It's Cold War.
Yeah, so I think that's probably why they went with that decision, which makes sense. Nobody ever heard of Australia at that point because let's face it, Crocodile Dundee hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, we didn't exist before '86. So
no, that's it. Oh man. But yeah, I was just looking up the director of the prequel. Don't get me to pronounce his name. He's a Dutch guy, but he's not done anything since.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nothing. And you're like, was that because of the thing? Nobody wanted to talk about the thing. Oh, God.
Oh, no. Yeah, the film he did before that was called Red Rain back in '96.
Yeah.
So he was active in the '90s. I think it probably sounds like he came out of retirement just because he wanted to do this film.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. It'd be interesting to get his take. But yeah, I found that a little bit fascinating. Obviously, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's gone on to do a lot of cool shit.
Yeah.
And likewise, that Australian fellow, Mr. Edgerton.
Mr. Edgerton. I think the film. I mean, I don't think there's any plan. Sci-Fi Channel was planning to do like a miniseries, I think, which is going to be a sequel
Of the thing, yeah,
and then it fell through.
Okay.
And it had Carpenter's blessing apparently, because apparently the script was written, and there's a review online of it, and apparently it's not bad. And that would have been nice.
Is there life in it yet?
Well, I don't know. I mean, apparently it's been shelved. I would love to see a sequel to the original film, not a sequel to the 2011 film. Or I'd like to see the two of them marry up if the Mary Weinstein character somehow.
Because she survives at the end, doesn't she? But then
she does, yeah. She nicks Joel Edgerton because she nicked him because his earring was in the wrong ear. Oh no, he had no earring because they've established that metal it can't be replicated, and he went to touch he touched the wrong ear, and if the thing had its memories, and this is actually philosophically speaking a really interesting point that Carpenter and Russell talk about in the DVD commentary of the 82 thing.
Yeah,
they discussed it during the shooting. If the thing takes you over, how do you know? If you're the thing, how do you know you're the thing? And they theorized that when it takes you over, you become dormant in the sense that you honestly think you are that person.
Yeah.
It's only when you're threatened that the true nature of the thing, you flip a switch and you become the thing. And he said that's a very interesting thing, because that means when you accuse somebody, that person being accused honestly says, I'm not the thing. And whilst you are the thing, you are accusing somebody, and you honestly think you're not the thing. And he said that suddenly made all the interactions really fucking interesting. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's really inspired as an idea. That you know you're the chameleon in the night. I love that as an idea.
Yeah. I like
when she accuses Joel Edgerton's character of you're the thing, and he reaches for the wrong ear, I was thinking, that's interesting, because if he's assimilated the memories of Joel Edgerton's character, he should have known where the fuck he had the earring.
His earring,
yeah. So it's interesting, yeah. But yeah, I think that if I was to do a third film, I would explore that somehow.
Yeah.
Are you who you really are? Because it's a whole thing, you are made up of memories, right? Blade Runner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, those memories are real. And so when did you start existing? So it's all it's great stuff. And that is the sci-fi element of it, which I love.
Yeah.
I really do. But yeah, I would probably do a sequel to the 82 thing. Ideally. I know how it come about.
I don't. Yeah, because like both actors aren't. I'm trying to be polite. Are kind of pushing on a bit. So I don't know how you would be able to do that if you were to keep them.
With the early noughties, Carpenter said if I was to do it with both David and Russell, I would explain they got frostbite, which is why they look the way they do. But now, being 17 years since then, and I don't think that would explain frostbite alone would explain that.
No.
You couldn't CG them look younger, although these days de-aging on CGI is getting better and better. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But you couldn't run a whole film like that.
No.
If you did, that'd be a game changer. I would go for lookalikes or new characters. As to what the concept would be. I mean, the natural leaning would be to this thing finds a way. This thing finds a way.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly hard to kill. So for me, it'd be what the next film is. It's about it winning and finding a way into. I guess in McMurdo, what's it called? McMurdo base is the main base, which is the launcher. And you'd find a way. And that's the closest thing they have to a city down there. And once it gets there, you're fucked because there's traffic coming in and out of that place.
Yeah,
so to me, it would be the next logical. Particularly if you did it to a miniseries, I think that would be the next. That's how you do that scope somehow.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because then it becomes a different kind of film. Which again, we're talking about what is a sequel. That feels like a different film to me. It's a big grand scale disaster film, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And so does that portray the whatever the original text was? So I don't know. I wouldn't envy somebody the job, but I'd be dead curious to judge them on it. So real quickly, other aspects of the film. Look, what do you think of it overall? Like the directing. We're a huge fan of Carpenter's. We've talked about his work for ages.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've still got. They Live, In the Mouth of Madness to come up. And then, and to me, Big Trouble, come on. Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of great movies. And when we do get around to kind of looking at his middle seat era, I'm no surprise. I'm actually going to end on a turkey with Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Because again, I think that's the tipping point again.
Yeah, right. Are you including the award in there?
No, that comes later.
That comes after? Right, okay. I didn't see Memoirs, so there you go.
Well, yeah, good luck. For me, that's the tipping point. No, so I do want to go through all of these canon, but I would probably the Ward I'd save for the end. I think that might even be the Vampires and Ghosts of Mars era, so it's kind of a...
fuck, I love Vampires. That's such a good film. Ghosts of Mars.
Look, that's down the track. That's down the track, man. So I think I'm just going to round out by asking you, where does this film sit for you as far as sci-fi films? Like,
it's top 10 easy. It's probably third in terms of behind Star Wars and Aliens in terms of the sci-fi.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure if you made me look at all the great sci-fi films, I'll probably go, I forgot about that one. But in terms of what it comes to immediate recall, it's that. Close Encounters probably at 4. It's just. I think when Facebook first came out, there was like, what is your top 15 films? And I think of all time, and the thing was in there somewhere.
Yeah. That's the thing about the thing is that it's more recently it's getting more. I mean, it's always been held out, quite highly, but more recently it seems to be constantly being put at the top of the pile. Not the very top, obviously, but it's becoming like it became a classic in its own right. But it's becoming even more established, I feel. Like it seems like a lot, and maybe it's just people our age that are kind of the ones making these lists. But it seems to me like it's kind of becoming an even bigger film than it was originally perceived as. I find that fascinating. I find that really fascinating. A lot of people are saying it's like the best sci-fi horror ever. I'd argue that Alien is better, but failing that, like I would say, it's definitely the runner-up to me. Like I can't think of another sci-fi horror film that is any better than those two.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting thing too for me about 80s films is what is it, 1, 2, kind of almost up to 4 decades since then. Like as a kid in the 80s, if you showed me a film from the 40s, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like I just wouldn't be able to connect with it really, not really at all. But you can still show these films to your kids and they'll go, oh, the effects are ropey or whatever, but they'll still get drawn in, I find. Yeah. And a great example is Star Wars. Every young parent, even now, and it's been for a couple of decades now, any parent, when you have a kid, one of the questions like, when are you going to teach them to ride a bike? When are you going to take them for a swim? When are you going to show them Star Wars?
Yeah.
Is a big thing with so many people, guys and girls.
Yeah.
And without fail, the kid will see it. Almost without fail, the kid will see it and they'll go, oh my God. And the universe has just expanded. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen it with so many, again, boys and girls, it's a universal thing. They'll go, that my life was pre-Star Wars, now it's post-Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's a magical, that 70s, 80s period it was the boom of the big Hollywood blockbuster, but it was a magical period for films as a result.
Yeah.
Because of those caliber of filmmakers who've come through, like the Spielbergs, the Lucases, the Carpenters, the Camerons, all those guys who went through. And that's not going through Scorsese and all those guys. But in terms of those popcorn movies that resonate, Zemeckis, all those guys, like it's an era. Like I always say, the 80s is a great decade for music for me. Cheesy as it is, and that was a cheesy decade. That's when the music was light, right? But as a period of films, so many seminal great films. And every decade obviously has them, but that decade seemed to be really rich for me.
You got to throw like Ghostbusters and Back to the Future in there.
Yes.
Both 84. And that's to me is okay. I think I've said to you before, like I was a bit. Like I kind of was a bit too late to the Star Wars kind of scene when it first came out, but my brother and my cousins were like, they're the same age as you, and or thereabouts, and they were so into it. So for me, Back to the Future and Ghostbusters was my thing, and that was I owned those, and so they for me resonate more. But there's so many kind of cool films around. I mean, obviously you've got Indiana Jones in there as well, which come back to Spielberg again. And from the horror point of view, it was that was the birth of slasher, and your Jasons and Freddys and stuff, which have never been. No one's ever been able to kind of repeat that since. They try and remake them, and they just can't. They can't get it.
No, different Hollywood magic, man. I mean, the closest. As a thing was found footage, as for a short while, was a new thing that was different, but it didn't have the same stickability, I guess, as like an iconic horror character, whether it be Freddy or Jason or Mike Myers or whatever. I'm gonna throw this down, and I'm gonna keep this on our record, so it'll hold you to it. But you've promised us to do a found footage few eps. So that's on you now, because this is going to be on the thing. Yes, I cannot wait.
Cool, man. All right, I think we're kind of getting to the end of our podcast on the thing. Unless this is your baby, man. So, what is there anything else you want to add before we sign out?
All right, chapter 2. We are going to talk. No, I'm fine. No, that's good. Like this is, like I said, this was a watershed moment. For me, like it was. I'm pretty sure this was the first film when you said I want to do a podcast series. I don't know what about yet. And I think that was the first film came out of my mouth. Was like, we got to do the thing. And it's been a journey, man. It's been a fun journey, great journey.
Yeah. It's been cool.
And we've collected people like with Miles and Greer and Ben when he gets around to watching any of these films, which he never does. Nick, Mez, like it's been a great time, great more time to come.
Yeah, man. There's been a few, and it's kind of nice to, as I said, to kind of use the thing as our kind of signature kind of sign off of John Carpenter as well. And I'm kind of keen to. We might take a bit of a hiatus for a while, but I'm kind of keen to look at Tobe Hooper's early work next. With their Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist, which we'll get you on. And there's a few others in there, like the Fun House, and there's some cool stuff that he did early on, which will be kind of cool to look back on. So that's definitely kind of from an auteur point of view who I'd like to look at next. Until then, I think this is us for John Carpenter's The Early Years podcast special of the thing. Once again, thank you, Anthony Yee, for taking part in this and leading us through this journey of the podcast session.
Thank you for having me.
And once again, I'm your humble host, Paul Farrell. And do kind of keep an ear out for more Surgeons of Horror podcasts as they come through the track. Keep on listening. Thanks again.
Bye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.